All right, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome, 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 everybody, to the revival of the Texas Garden Guy show. And it is Monday, Labor Day. I'm sure everybody's been out there working real hard on Labor Day. I think most people Labor Day is drinking beer and hot dogs and barbecue and stuff like that. But I always thought of Labor Day was a day where a person that works a lot of hours and works really hard, that's either the weekend where they keep working and they get double time and a half, or they actually get time off. They actually get time off to do work in their own yard. And so that's what I did this weekend. I spent most of the weekend when it wasn't raining trying to get the yard done. And I was looking forward to tonight because this guest we have on tonight, Josh, the plant techie, or on Facebook, Uncle Josh, right? I want to hear more about that. We've had Josh on the garden party before, but we never really, got his background and how he got started. So this Texas Garden Guy show is going to be more of a one-on-one and kind of get everybody's background and see how they got into gardening and what their passions in the garden world are. So first off, go ahead and introduce yourself, Josh.
All right. Thanks, Destin. Yeah, so Josh here, the Plant Techie is my handle on several platforms, but I also go by Uncle Josh Gardens, and it's sort of a play on two different sides of my personality, a technical side, and then me being an uncle. And so we'll talk about that here in a minute. But basically, I've been growing fruit trees for 10 years, been gardening for 10 years, probably have a couple hundred planted in the ground now. So I'm totally all in on fruit trees and container fruit trees, citrus. And about a year ago, I started doing social media and just thought, hey, I really want to share this passion with everybody, put it out there and just see where it goes. And people seem to like it. So I'm doing more and more of it.
That's fantastic, man. Yeah, I think I saw. You've only been doing this for a year. That's insane.
Coming up in 2 weeks, it'll be 1 year since my first post. So
Well, you are doing it right, man. I'm telling you, if y'all aren't following, so on. You said Uncle Josh and Plant Techie. Which one came first?
So the that's a really good question. It was sort of both at the same time. I could pull up my logo, but it's literally got both both. So probably the Uncle Josh Gardens came first, and then I needed a handle, and I was like, well, I'll just do something a little bit different and change it up.
Yeah, and I think we met probably 4 months ago or so. I think we started
Mhm.
following each other, and
Yeah.
you put out really good, like well produced videos. Like your videos are scripted really well. Usually when I'm filming, man, I have to go back and like that stutter here and there. Like yours are like really well scripted videos. You're super punctual, and it inspires people like me to like, hey, think about more what I'm saying. And that's one thing. That's one of the positives on for sure. I mean, among many on your channel, that you put out a lot of good punctual tips, and you're really good with the actual recordings and stuff. You're really good at that, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, scripting is sort of part of my process. Come up with the idea, script it, use a teleprompter app. Just
Do you really use a telephone for that?
it,
Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's
it helps.
awesome. Yeah,
Now, not all the videos are scripted, right? But some of them, I'm like, I really want to make sure I don't miss it or repeat this word or do this thing. And so it's a pretty cool little app because it follows like down the page as you talk, and it knows your words. It's AI teleprompter, so
wow.
it's
And you're
pretty.
b- and you're big on the AI stuff. You use a lot of AI like in your like I know a lot of people. I just got introduced to this by another person. I forget who told me. They it was this new thing called Opus Clips, and it's where you can. I know there's a couple different programs or websites that do it, but you can like literally like you can make a YouTube video and then post it, and then click the link, copy and paste it, and it'll go through and like take some of the best clips out and compile like 9 by 16 reels and TikTok stuff for your social media, which is really neat and a really cool tool because I don't think people realize how long it takes to edit a video. Like, what is your process? And by the way, we're not just talking about behind the scenes stuff. If y'all want to drop any garden questions or anything like that down below, we'll be talking about fall gardening, tree planting, and I think you've got an internet. The seminar already passed. Was the seminar already did it already happen?
Yeah, the summit just wrapped up last week. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So we can recap on that as well.
Mhm.
But real quick, I want to ask him some of the stuff about his videos. So it's like, what is your process? Like, so you come up with an idea and you kind of do the outline, or what is your process?
I'll sort of I have a running list of like, here's all the stuff that either people ask me about that I need to do or ideas. It's sort of got a running list. And then I'll pick one, be like, all right, I'm gonna shoot about this. And then I'll write it up. I'll do a little research just to make sure that I'm fact checking, because sometimes I actually mispronounce some things and people are like, that's not how you say that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been saying, you know, calendula for years and it's calendula, like people just rip me apart for that stuff. So
Oh
if,
my god.
so if it's a word I don't know how to pronounce, I'll check the pronunciation because I don't want to look like an idiot.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's almost better to mispronounce that. I've made videos before where I messed up something. I did like a okra fact video and I messed something up really bad. Or I did a fig video, and the website I was looking at for tips like said that a dried fig was called a date, and I don't know. I was like, and I didn't even think twice, and I said it in the video, and I got so many comments like, "Hey, a date is a separate fruit," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I didn't even think to like double check this." And I on that one, I think I did take the video down, but usually I leave them up because the people correcting you, like I know people that will do stuff like that to get the people commenting their videos. They'll throw like Farmer Froberg used to have me in his videos, and he would have me in the back with like a wig on doing something weird, just so people will get in the comments and like be like, who is the guy in the background? What is going on here? Just like weird stuff like that. So, yeah, it's definitely research is important.
Yeah, definitely. So once I'm done researching and figure out, okay, here's the thing, I'll script it up in my little notepad app. I'll put it in my teleprompter app, and then I'll sort of go pick out where I'm gonna do the shot. I'll do all I like to shoot the entire thing in one go, audio wise, because it creates a consistent audio across all of them. Because I find if I'm like when I started, I was like, oh, I'll talk about this, then I'll go over here and I'll talk about that. And the audio was always like different, and it's really so I just do the whole thing and then I add B-roll over top of it, take the audio out from the B-roll sometimes, unless there's like sound effects. Then I take it into CapCut either on my phone or my computer, depending on how long it is and how complicated it is, and just do all the CapCut settings and save it and post it.
And that's some good tips for anybody who's looking to get started, whether it's a gardening channel or a car maintenance, or I mean, anything. I mean, all these principles apply to pretty much any topic. And I know a lot of people, see like videos from like me or you or anyone else, and they think that there's already too many people out there creating content like this, or there's too much of this. There's not. I mean, there's so much opportunity for people to get in, and if you're creative and you really dedicate yourself and make good quality content, you will stand out from the crowd. You will
I,
definitely
I
stand
had
out.
I had a fun experience the other day. I was researching some fruit tree pruning because I was like, oh, I'm gonna really dig into some deep fruit tree pruning stuff. So I typed in, fruit tree pruning summer or something, and one of my videos came up in Google, and I was like, my mind just went like, I
Yes,
can't believe I came up on a Google search.
it's a dude. It's funny. It's so funny when that happens. Real quick, I like this new software. I'm using StreamYards, not Riverside anymore. And one of the best features about it is I can see all the comments from Facebook and YouTube on the actual page, and I can click on it and I can show the questions in the stream of what someone was asking. So Blue Sage has become a really good viewer here lately. She's been almost every stream for the past week or so. She was asking, she's a first time gardener. So she's asking what fall veggies are the best for a first time. Remember, I kill dirt. Well, to be fair, dirt is dead, soil is living. So all dirt is dead. Soil is alive. Soil is a living, like a microbiome. So you can't kill what's already dead, Blue Sage. So, but in your opinion, Josh, what would you recommend to a first time like fall gardener like coming up here in the fall?
Probably carrots. And I don't know what zone you're in, but for where I'm at, zone 8A, I can grow carrots through the whole winter and pull them out. So I'll plant them now and then sort of do some succession planting, and then I can be harvesting them all winter. And even if it gets below freezing, that actually makes them sweeter. So that's been a really like easy. The only key with carrots is you got to have like deep soil, deep, like
Mm,
well tilled. So you can't do it in like hard ground with only 2 inches. You'll get 2 inch carrots. So
right.
raised beds is key for that. If you're gonna, but lettuces are probably pretty easy, you know, for cooler season crop. I mean, I definitely would start with some like bib lettuce or some sort of salad mix type of lettuce. That would be my suggestions. What about you, Destin? What would you recommend?
Whenever someone asks me what should I be growing, the first thing I say is something you will eat. Something you will eat. Like, don't grow it if you're not going to eat it. I mean, unless it's providing pollinator, like providing something for pollinators to bring them in, or providing food for you to eat. It's I don't typically grow it. So that's my first tip. And then I would say, like, here, I know she's in the Houston area. She was saying it the other day, but carrots are a good option. But they are something that I've never had luck growing. I've never had good luck growing carrots ever, and I will be trying it again this fall. I've got some open bed space that I'm gonna broad fork. I'm gonna broad fork those beds. I've got some 17-inch tall beds, which I should be able to grow some carrots in there. And I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it for sure. But I have not have had luck with carrots. I know
Hmm.
so a lot of times the weeds will grow faster or will germinate faster than the carrots. That's usually what I hear from a lot of people that grow. I think it was Zach Ortizka from Seed Farm Table, because they do a lot of carrots out in California, and they will till the fields and all that stuff. They'll plant their carrot seeds, and then what comes up first is typically weeds and stuff. So they'll actually go through and flame weed the stuff that's popped up, and then after that, then they have the carrots germinating. Like, how long does it usually take for carrot seeds to germinate for you? It takes a while, right?
No, I mean, honestly, like 5, 6 days here. I don't.
Really?
Yeah, if you plant them in the fall, and maybe it's because we get cooler nights here, you know,
Maybe
and
so.
and I don't know if carrots do as well at higher temperatures in terms of germination.
Got you. Yeah, I'll have to do a little experiment with them, because like I said, I've never had luck with carrots, but I love carrots. Like, I love carrots. Another fun fact about carrots we found out when we are talking to him, I thought that baby carrots were like just the reject carrots or like misformed. No, they grow baby carrots specifically as baby carrots. They only get they get that big and they stop growing. Like, it's the craziest thing. Like, I thought that baby carrots are like, they put them like
Yeah.
a lathe and they make them that exact. No, they from like the rejected carrots. No, they grow baby carrots to be that size. So I would say carrots are a cool option, because I'm going to try it. But here in the Houston area, and we can grow them over winter too. Anything in the Nebraska family, like once it starts getting like in the 70s, that's cabbage, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. If you want to do Brussels sprouts, get them early, because Brussels sprouts grow so slow. But they are probably my favorite brassica. I love Brussels sprouts. I had Brussels sprouts last night, and be careful, because they will give you the toots. We got a comment here from Marcos. That's a cool plant behind you, Josh? What is that right over here? Is
Oh
it a
yeah,
bonsai?
it is a bonsai. It's a bonsai that needs pruning, unfortunately. This is a Chinese elm, and it's actually got some flowers on it right now. It's my only bonsai, and like I said, it needs some pruning. You can see here, but it actually produces edible berries on it, which is
Really?
surprising. So
Elm
yeah,
berries.
yeah, Chinese elm, sort of interesting.
Wow. I think in my dad's pasture, we grow a lot of water, or a lot of Chinese elms, and typically they grow right on the fence line, and we just go through and hack them. But I bet if we dug some up, they'd probably make some good bonsai. There's a lot of I got a buddy Jerome, who owns the bonsai supply. He actually lives here in Houston, and he does a lot of like weekly bonsai videos, and it's crazy the stuff that they'll bonsai, like, because you think most people, when they think of bonsai, they think of, or bonsai, is portulacaras, like the jade plants, or your junipers. But they do tropical plants with bonsai too. It's so wild. I mean, you can bonsai anything.
You can prune a fruit tree to be any size. I've seen bonsai apples, bonsai pomegranates. Like you really got to know what you're doing to be able to do that, but you could do it.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Let's see. Craig, who's another diehard follower. I've heard with that with carrots to get them to germinate, you have to keep the soil moist and wet. Yeah, that's yeah, you want to keep it moist. And around this time of year, it's usually cooler and the soil is not drying out as fast. So you probably it's probably pretty good advice for sure.
Definitely.
Um,
I agree with that.
Blue Sage, I got a bunch of seeds from David's Seeds. Yes, David's Garden Seeds is I say local, but they're in San Antonio, so right down the road. They're a veteran owned company. They do sell on Amazon, but I do recommend buying from their site. If you buy stuff on Amazon, typically the seed packets are going to be more expensive because Amazon charges so much for the markup. So if you go to like I always say try to go local with your seed companies and try to go non-GMO and everything. But try to buy from the manufacturer, and they'll save some money, and you'll save some money. You know what I mean? Especially with small businesses and stuff. If I can get them to sprout when I transplant them into the soil, should I use a root booster? Do you use a transplant mix or anything for like your veggies?
I don't.
Yeah.
I grow all mine from seed, and then I'll just transplant them in and then add fertilizer, a couple weeks before to sort of mix it in the soil. So I
Oh,
don't
really?
do anything. Yeah.
So before you transplant anything a couple weeks before, you just go through and you like mix in some granular fertilizer into the actual soil first.
Yeah. So
Really?
I'll take the whole bed and just, do a layer of fertilizer, and then above that do a layer of compost, and sort of just, and that's it. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
obviously I'll like rake the bed, get any grubs out, like sort of till a little bit, but these are for my raised beds, my like really tall beds.
Right.
And this
Right.
year, that did so well this year, it just blew up. So,
Wow. That's some good advice. I might give that a try. Well, and I use a transplant mix sometimes. I mostly use it's made by Nelson Plant Food. They're another local company here in the Houston area. But I use it's called the Genesis transplant mix. I typically use it whenever I'm transplanting trees, especially when it's hot. I've noticed that the transplant mix, when I'm going from either, you know, up potting something to a bigger pot or putting something in the ground, that reduces transplant shock, and it's
hmm,
it's it's really nice. You can use something like that, but it's not necessary, especially for the fall garden, because it's going to be cooler temperatures. By the time your seeds are ready to be transplanted, it's going to be cooler, and so you're not going to have as much transplant shock going from, obviously. I think as I said this before on the channel that if obviously you're going to start seeds in the spring indoors and then probably moving them outside. If you're going to start seeds for a fall garden, you want to start those outside because those seed starts are going to have such a hard time acclimating from like 70 something degrees inside your house and then going out and being really hot. So you want to like start your seeds in like a shadier spot of your yard, but you want them to like grow up already acclimated because that shift is going to be so much. People see it when they put their indoor plants outside for like an afternoon and they just come back and they're toast, it's a shock to the system. So
yeah, I think whenever I start seedlings, I mean, it's got to be outdoors in the fall for sure. And the key for me is you have to really water them a lot more regularly than you would your beds with established roots. So a lot of people will like not water them enough when they're outside, but I keep them in the shade and I water them more to
yeah,
be able to get them to grow up.
yeah, because when it's in like the 80s and 90s, those trays are gonna dry out fast. If you can, try to get a seed starting tray that's got a bottom watering tray so that they can soak from the roots, and kind of keep that and just check that water volume, water level every day. But definitely check I say check your seeds. Seed starts in the morning and the afternoon. Uh, Grow lights are great for spring gardens, but nothing is better than the actual sun. I mean, it is night and day, literally night and day. Grow lights versus like actually in the sun.
Could not agree more.
Let's see. Beth Williams says, "Can you grow cucumbers and zucchinis right now? The aphids ate my plant." Um, are you going to do a fall crop of cucumber and squash?
I mean, I'm not, but if I started a month ago, I could have because of
Okay.
when, the time frame to grow. So it depends on your zone and when your first frost date is and what variety you get and how many days it takes to fruit and then how long you want it to fruit after that point. So a lot of my buddies that garden around here, they'll do 2 rounds of squash and zucchini because, usually the bugs get the first one or the heat, and so I would have needed to do that a month ago for it to really take.
Gotcha. And I'm in 9B, so we typically get our first frost mid-December to mid-January. So I could start them right now. I actually have to wait 2 weeks because I'm going to Alabama for a YouTube meetup. So I won't be here for like 4 days. So I'm OCD. If I start seeds, I got to check the water. I got to check everything. So I'm not even going to, I'm not going to make my wife check it the way I check it because no one's going to check it the way I check it. So I'll wait till I get back, and that'll be a little bit. I'll be 2 weeks behind, but I plan on doing some squash in the fall. I didn't have a great spring squash crop. Another cool little thing is some people think that winter squash is grown in the winter, but winter squash, it actually refers to uh, it's like an acorn squash, like almost like pumpkins, and these are like thicker skinned squash that are going to survive all winter long, like in a root cellar or in your fridge. They're going to last a lot longer, and that's why they used to call them winter squash, because people could eat them all throughout the winter.
I just harvested this red curry squash. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. It's like
I
this
have
big
seen them.
brown gourd looking thing. And it was so good. And I roasted it and I put brown sugar. I treated it sort of like sweet potato, like brown sugar and butter on it. Oh man.
Yeah.
I actually ate some tonight with dinner. It was so good.
Do you do a lot of squash? Do you all eat a lot of squash, like butternut and stuff like that? See, my wife doesn't like spaghetti squash or butternut, and I feel like butternut's such an easy one to grow. Acorn and butternut, because there's a lot of SVB resistant strains
Hmm.
that people that have issues with squash vine borers, they make some squash vine borer resistant, not squash vine borer proof, but resistant strains of the butternut squash that maybe you should try especially if you like butternut squash. But I've also heard that most people eat them like sweet potatoes. You just roast them and throw some honey or some brown sugar on there, and oh, dude.
Oh, that's the way to do it. Or you could it's really good like filler. Like we do this thing where it's like like a whole plate where we do like, all these different veggies on a plate and cut up butternut as like a cube and then add like meats and things and sort of creates like, it's like good starch fillers that's a little bit sweeter than potato.
Yeah, I bet it would make a good pie. I bet butternut squash would probably make a good pie. I bet.
Yeah. I can't believe you don't grow butternuts. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
they get pretty, like, I mean, most squash get pretty big, but I know like the varieties like acorn and butternut,
Yeah.
they'll get pretty big. I mean, a lot of people ask me if I grow watermelon and pumpkins. I'm like, dude, I don't have enough space, man. I wouldn't have any grass.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any grass for my dog to run around. It's
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
this year I tried something different with mine because I was doing them in the beds, and they would, I've got these 30-inch tall beds, and they would like go down the side and into the yard, and like accidentally mow over it by accident because it's so far out in the yard. So this year I planted all of mine in between my fruit trees. So I've got this whole row of apple trees and pears, and so I decided to like, oh, that's unused space. Haven't done too many companion plants there yet, besides some chives and other things. So I was like, I'll just do that. And so I did that this year, and they would like run down between the fruit trees, but they kept seeking like the sunny spot in the yard. So I kept having to like move them back. Like, come on, guys, you're going the wrong way. You're supposed to go this way where there's all this space, and they just want to go straight out into the yard. So
It's
I
so
think,
funny. It's so funny how plants will tell you what they want almost. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, uh, I forget who told me this, but they were talking about how if you plant like an oak tree out in the middle of the field all by itself, it's going to be blowing in the wind. It's going to grow out and everywhere, and it's going to be wild and all over the place. But if you plant like a tree in a forest surrounded by tree, they're all growing straight up and down because they're competing for sunlight. And it's so crazy how you'll see plants reaching out and growing towards the sunlight. I got a fig tree that's actually planted probably 30, no, like maybe 10 feet from me on the other side of this wall. And this is the north side of my house. It's in the ground and it gets hardly any sunlight except for like late in the evening. Does great, but the branches every single year will grow 10 foot out, reaching out towards the sun. It's so crazy, but I get a lot of propagation material out of it. And so it produces a lot of figs as well. So it's cool how the plants will kind of show us what they want if we pay more attention to it, you know?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I've got a bunch of paths on the back of my property, and all the trees. I have to go in and trim the trees because all the branches will be in the path because that's where all the sun is. So
Yeah.
like this whole tree, like two little, branches on the outside and 10 new branches on the inside because that's where the sun is. So
Yeah.
totally.
It's definitely interesting to watch nature work. And if y'all have any garden questions, feel free to drop them down below. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Oh, nice. Craig said I started cucumbers and squash today. Nice.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Yes, and I did bring a fun plant I was going to show you. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but it's called a jelly melon. Have you ever heard of a jelly melon?
I've heard, but I've never seen one like in person.
So this was a Baker Creek heirloom seeds test trial. I was like, oh, let me just get the most random seeds this year and try it out, which not all of them worked out, but this one did. And so I'll show you the back of it because it's so cool looking, but it's got this green innards.
Whoa.
And it reminds me of green Jello.
That's the flavor? Like it tastes like lime, like almost?
Yeah, it's like a lime. It's not that sweet. Like it's surprised. So you sort of like spoon it out, and it's this really gooey, gelatinous,
Oh my God.
seedy mix. So I thought it'd be really fun because it's just so crazy looking, and the spikes are sharp. But I'll show you what it looks like. But it's like this like green, gooey.
Is it good though? Is it pretty good?
It's like a mix between like a cantaloupe and a kiwi with like the seeds of a cucumber. It's very strange.
It's got a lot of seeds.
Oh yeah, tons of seeds. Look at all those seeds.
I wonder how it would be like if you juiced one, like made it into like because me and my dad were actually talking about this because he's the one that kind of got me into pomegranates. Like he is obsessed with pomegranates. And he said the bad thing about pomegranates is that most people can't stand how thick the seeds are, the seed walls. And there are some varieties that have thinner seed walls. I forget the variety. I think he was called it like a winter white or something like that, but it's got a thinner seed wall. But he was, he was talking to me about how thick the seed walls were. And he's like, well, that's how they make juice. And I was like, well, I guess that makes sense because some fruits that have a ton of seeds, they just juice them. They just turn them into juice. So I bet that would be kind of a cool juice. I bet.
Yeah, it'd be good. Like prickly pears, because I heard those seeds are hard as a rock.
That's what he mentioned. Yes, that's what he was comparing it to. Yeah. No, I think I saw that on that the Baker Creek Hobos video. The one that was
I heard you call him that. How does he feel about that? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. He seems like he looks cool.
Have you ever seen anybody with hats like that in public? I've never seen anybody dressed like that in public.
Dude, he cracks me. If you don't follow Baker, is it Baker Creek or Rare Seeds of their Instagram? I think it's Baker Creek. I think it's Baker Creek Seeds.
I think it is, yeah.
But the dude, Ryan, I think his name is Ryan, because I reached out to Baker Creek to get him on the podcast to do a one-on-one. And she goes, well, I'll have to reach out to him. He is in charge of his own, stuff. So we'll see. And he never got back to me. And this is already after I had called him the Baker Creek Hobo. So but he seems, I found his personal page and he actually looks like he's a really nice guy and does a lot of cool, like charity stuff. So I won't poo poo on him. He's, and whatever he's doing is working. I mean, Baker Creek social media is hilarious. His costumes and stuff is so funny.
Yeah. It looks like it is Baker Creek Seeds.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's just so funny because like they're in Missouri and people in Missouri don't dress like that. That is so bizarre. It is hilarious, man.
It's so funny.
Let's see. I did pretty bad on most of my Baker Creek plants. I wasn't able to get to be an intimate as the guy. Oh, I wasn't able to be as intimate as the guy on the ads. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, dude, whatever he's doing is working because they're getting engagement. I mean, it's working for
Oh
them,
yeah.
and honestly, like Baker Creek puts out a ton of varieties, like ton of cool varieties. Um, so I've bought from them before.
I
Um,
got their really thick catalog this year.
and they put out the most beautiful plant seed catalog you've ever seen in your life. Oh
Yeah, I mean
yes,
it's gorgeous just to look at,
it's like a perfect coffee table book to leave like on your coffee table just to be like sorting through when you're bored. Yeah,
Yeah,
man, it's neat.
it's thick too. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not super expensive either. I think it's like, how much is it? Like they do a free version, but then they do
Yeah, it's
like a
like
pay.
15 bucks. 15
Yeah.
bucks.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do a lot of they do a lot of cool deals too on their site. So make sure to check out Rare Seeds if you're looking for something like out of the box, like out of the blue, like crazy. One variety of okra I did a couple of years ago was called the Motherland okra. And I met the guy on Instagram whose farm actually produces the seed for Baker Creek for that. I think it's called Comfort Farms. I think they're in North Carolina as well. The story behind it is that I think his mom or his grandma actually brought the seeds from Africa over, and anyone who doesn't know about okra, it's from Africa. A lot of the stuff, like a lot of cucumber stuff, I think melons and stuff are from Africa originally.
Hmm.
But that okra variety, Motherland, it grows like it's huge. It gets huge, and it's like it'll get as big as like a baseball. It's huge, but it's almost so hard that I couldn't even try. I couldn't figure out a way to eat it. But what I did find is that it grew really, really tall. I was
Hmm.
thinking that I was going to be able to get the world record for the tallest okra plant. It's
How tall did it end up getting? That's what I
it
want to
got
know.
it got 16 feet tall.
Wow.
It got 16 feet tall in a pot. It was grown out of a pot too. The world record, I believe, was like 20 something feet, 30 something feet. And I don't know where they were at, but it was like pencil thin, like the whole thing. It was growing up the side of a building. It's like the third or fourth floor, and that's how they grew it so long. They just every time it grew new
Size it
leaves,
up.
they cut it up so it would just keep growing taller and taller. And it must have been on like the south side of a building. So hey, shout out to them. And if y'all want to hear about more world records and stuff like that, we're having Ryan Cook, Heavenly Hills Homestead. He's coming on the podcast on the garden party on Wednesday. I met him through Enoch, the urban gardener. He was on there the same episode I was, and he's got like 30 world records for growing like giant pumpkins, the world's longest carrot, crazy stuff. So make sure to tune in Thursday for that as well, because he's really in. Ryan, have you heard of him? You met him?
Oh, no, I need to check him out. What's his name again? Ryan.
Ryan Cook, Heavenly Hills Homestead, straight out of West Virginia, really cool country boy, and he's just growing like 1,000-pound pumpkins. It's insane, dude. It's crazy.
Wow, that's amazing. So you found
Yeah.
him through Enoch. Yeah, I actually get to go on Enoch's podcast a little while ago, and
Oh,
he
nice.
had. I felt like I was in a TV program because he'd have like these commercials and be like, "All right, we're cutting to B-roll here," and like these little pop-up ads and quizzes, and I was like, "What is this? This is amazing!"
Oh my, yeah, dude. When I first went on the Urban Gardener channel on the stream, I was like, dude, this is like I'm on PBS or something. Like this is like he's what made me switch from Riverside to StreamYards, because I was like, man, I gotta step my production value up a little bit. I gotta invest some more time and money into my show, because this is blowing me out of the water. And so it's cool to see other creators and see how they're doing it, because it inspires you to step your game up too. It's motivation, and like I'm a little competitive. So
Yeah.
I
Now, do you
not
do you ever ad hoc go live? Like, hey guys, I'm just gonna go live and like not a pre-programmed thing, or have you, or would you do that?
yes, I used to do it more often when my Instagram was able. So I got a slap on the wrist from Instagram about almost a year ago, and they disabled my live, and it was supposed to be for like 30 days, and it's still locked me out. I can't go live on Instagram.
That's crazy outreach
Yeah,
now. Oh my goodness.
I've reached out to Meta several times, and they are not very helpful. So I don't know. I've tried to get a hold of someone from Meta on that, and it happened last November, and it's been like almost like 10 months now. So I would go more live on Instagram probably, and actually this has a feature where I can go live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the same time if I wanted to, but
I
I
wonder how
can't
that
because
works. How does it work with like portrait versus landscape though? That's what I've always wondered.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like, I'll never find out because I don't have the ability. We got Brenda from Arkansas. What's going on? Blue sage. It looks like an alien. She's talking about the melon. Dude, it literally looks like a fruit from what is the space movie with Tim Allen where they're like they're actors and but like aliens invade and they think that it's a real show. Is it Galaxy Quest? And it looks like a fruit from Yep, there you are, Craig. Craig's got me down there. Galaxy Quest. Yeah, that's what it looks like. We got Darlene from Illinois in the chat. What is going on, Darlene? Um, Josh, what is your go-to watering system for raised beds? I know you probably have something little complex. You like to complicate things like me and get fancy. What does your irrigation setup look like?
Well, this is my third garden. So I used to do like wooden raised beds, but they would get really weedy. I did like 12 by 4 raised beds, and I had like 8 of those for a couple years. And then I went to container gardening. So I had like these 30-gallon, 15-gallon pots, and that's all I would do, container with landscape fabric. And so I just started, this is my third iteration, which is the 30-inch Vigo garden beds. And I just put those in like a year and a half ago. So I haven't even put in irrigation in yet on them. But all my
Huh?
previous gardens, I used Drip Depot. And I just had like some of those, 6-inch emitter, quarter-inch tubes with like an Orbitz automation system.
Nice.
That's the one that I have, and I've actually got them like new in a box, and I literally just haven't had time to put them in yet because I'm shooting so many videos. I haven't had time to do like the actual gardening stuff I want to get done.
It's that old saying, like the cobbler's kids go shoeless or whatever. It's it's a miracle that I can get anything done. Honestly, man, it's insane, like the amount of like stuff I got going on. And I feel your pain on that. I had those Orbit digital timer. I got the Orbit Wi-Fi one. They sent them to me. To do a video on them. And I literally have not even brought them out. I just haven't had time to pull them out of the box. That's usually something I would do over winter. In the spring and the summer, I'm usually doing quick little repairs. Like yesterday, I was recording a video doing my revamping my blueberry bed, and as soon as I looked, I've got those 360 little micro sprinklers, and
Yeah.
one of they always have a tendency to dry rot in the sun, the little tops. So I have to cut them off, snip them off, and replace them. And so that's usually what I'm doing. I'll go to water it, turn the sprinkler on, and it turns on. All of a sudden, I see a fountain of water going straight up, and I was like, "Oh, the top dry rotted. I got to go replace it." And so I'll turn the water off, go do it, and then do that, and then another one pops up. I'm like, it usually happens in like threes. It always happens in like threes. Like three of them will go out at once, and
So you stick a spike in, and then it sort of sprays out. Is that how you do it? I think I,
yes,
yeah, I think I just watched your video. You put out like today
yes,
on it, and you showed
yeah.
the little valves, and then the spikes, and each one goes to the main line, and yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty that was an older video, and but I still got I have a similar setup, and I've got so many plants that I have to have uh two lines going one way in my yard, one going one way, one going the other, and then everything in my greenhouse. I actually ran. I'm a big believer in quick connects for hoses, like those brass quick connects. And so one side of my yard has got one where I can disconnect it when I mow and then wrap it up. And then my greenhouse has one of those shrinky hoses with a quick connect. And then I mounted my hose reel on the greenhouse wall, and I can pull the reel out and then water what I need to by hand.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people get a little lazy with the sprinkler systems sometimes
Yeah.
because it happens so often. And it's happened to my buddy Jorge, who's got a big nursery. He had another site where he had like 100 oak trees just sitting there in like 55-gallon containers, and there was like the 1 week he didn't go out there and check the irrigation, and it was in the middle of summer, and one row didn't get water for like 3 weeks, and it killed like 20 55-gallon oak trees. And it's just like, dude. And so it's the one time you don't check, you depend on your app to turn the sprinkler on, or you depend on the valve to open up on time, that something leaks and you've got a bunch of water out in your yard, or one of the sprinklers is clogged up. I have hard water, so those little sprinklers, the emitters, will get clogged up with like calcium and stuff. So I need to probably go through and do a renovation of all the irrigation lines. It's been so long.
When
But
I was doing containers and I had irrigation on all my containers, I would do like a single 1/4 inch non-drip, and then do a ring of about 12 inch or 2 foot ring. If it was a 15-gallon pot, I'd do like a 18-inch size ring of 6-inch emitters in a circle with a T connect, and then it would drip
oh,
evenly around the entire root zone. So that's what I was doing on all my container trees when I had my container garden going.
wow. How
And it
many
worked
did
really
you
well.
how many did you have on one zone, I guess? Because I know after a while with that many emitters on one plant, that with me, if I had all of mine set up like that, I mean, God, dude, I would have to have like 4 different zones, because I have on one side, I probably got like 30 or 40 trees,
Yeah,
fig trees, pomegranates, and this side I've probably got another 30 or 40. If I did that for each single one, man, I think I would lose so much pressure. But I like that. I've seen the rings, the little setups where they even do. I've seen where they do like the little 1/4 inch like soaker hose almost that goes around it, and
yeah,
you can leave that sprinkler on for a little bit longer as well, which is kind of neat. So
yeah.
I'd like to set something
I
up
never
if
had
I
I
could.
never had any pressure problems with it. I mean,
Oh,
I've
really?
got the pressure reducer on the end, and then the backflow, and then sort of all the different adapters, which takes it down to like a 25 psi, from whatever your
Yeah.
house pressure is. But I've never had. I mean, I had a lot of plants. I probably had 100 pots at one
Wow.
time on one line. Now I had separate lines because then I'd also have a line for my fruit trees, but that was on a separate like back line. And so I
Right.
would I wouldn't run those together, because that what I always heard was that it's the distance. So like the main line distance. So you couldn't be over 250 feet if it was like a, I don't know, 3/4
Hmm.
inch, or no, was it a half inch? Yeah, half inch tube, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Mine's a 1/2 inch tube. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
for
if you
sure.
if you have if you have bigger tubing, you can actually go more distance, and then if you can have X amount of plugs off of it, and that's
Right.
those 1/4 inch plugs is what reduces it. But I don't know if there's like an emitter count, as long as you're doing,
Hmm.
whatever, so much distance between your um, plugs coming off the main line.
That's a good point. I know when I do set it up. So these little 1/4 inch little sprinklers are kind of a pain in the butt. I went to Jorge's, and he actually, instead of doing the 1/4 inch ones, because if you do the 1/4 inch emitters, you got to use the nipple going into the 1/2 inch hose, and then you got to use the spike or some kind of stake to hold it. Jorge uses 1/8 inch spaghetti line, and he doesn't use a nipple. He just pops the hole and sticks it right in. There's no nipple with the
What?
with
You're
the 8 inch
kidding.
hose, and he gets those 1/8 inch emitters for like super cheap, and they don't go out. They don't go out. So when I end up redoing all of this, I will probably switch to the 1/8 inch hose. I'll stay with the 1/2 inch, but move to an 1/8 inch spaghetti line, and then use those smaller emitters to kind of hopefully save some more pressure. Maybe I could run them all at one time with 1/8 inch, just run them longer.
Yeah,
So
probably, because it would be less output. You just would have
right.
to have enough drip, and you could run the whole thing for an hour versus 30 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing a lot of irrigation. Like here in the summer, he was watering like morning, noon, and night. I mean, running in a nursery is crazy. It's in general, man. It's just,
Crazy.
yeah, man. It's nuts. So,
Sure, you
but
better not fucking all these people. So
Let's see. I did post a link to the Texas Garden Guy hats. If you want to support the channel, the hats are available now at Texas Garden Guy. My buddy Jeremy Trosky with Dirty Punk Gardening, him and his wife are making them, shipping them out. So I don't even touch them. I worked with them to make the design and pick the colors and everything, but they're handling all the inventory. I can't handle shipping and inventory and everything. So like I'd rather them make more money and I make less money and just get the hats out and not have to worry about that. So you're supporting me and you're supporting Dirty Punk Gardening and their company. So make sure you go give them a follow as well. So you do this full time or what do you do for a full time job?
No, I have a full-time job. I'm actually in IT, which sort of has to do with why it's called the plant techie. Because I used to be an audio engineer, work in recording studios, and then
Really?
and then I got into um, let's see what did I do after that? Then I get into engineering, so audio visual design engineering for a while, and then I did facility management, and now I'm actually in IT, and then I manage an IT group for a company, and but we're an audiovisual company, so I'm dealing with like camera systems all the time and dealing with like streaming codecs. So like that's why it's the plant techie, because I'm a technical person. I mean, that's what I do every day, all day.
That's awesome. And you work for like Think Media or what? Like that's like it's like the big. That's the one. Anytime I've got like when I'm trying to figure out like how do I set my studio up, how do I do this? Like what's the right lighting angles? And I need my key light. I got a new couch in here, so my key light doesn't. Which one is in the back? Back's not the key light. The front
Now
one,
the key light is right here. You have,
right?
then you have fill light, and then you have like a rear light, which is like your hair light. A lot of people call it hair light.
Yes, I thought there was one that you're supposed to put like in the back. That's got like us like something in the back. They always say like put like something of a different color in the back to kind of bring something up as well. But I have heard the hair light. It's like one just to kind of take the shadows out, pretty much, right?
Yeah, sort of it gives you more dimension between the background. Is really the idea.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
So
because your
yeah,
studio is set up nice. Is that your office or what is
yeah.
this?
So this is my home office. So I'm in here on Zoom calls every day, all day. It's just it's got to be
Oh,
fun.
you work from home?
Yeah, yeah. That's the nice
Oh,
part. You
nice.
can work from home. So sometimes I'll go live, like on TikTok over lunch. Like, oh, I'm going for a walk, in the woods. We'll do a live over lunch. So it's fun. Take my dogs, do that sort of thing.
That's one of the best things about I took a new position in my company and I'm 5 minutes from work. And so I come home every day for lunch. And if I need to do some editing or upload some stuff, but I always take my dog out, start the sprinklers, we make a sandwich, and then come in here and work on something. It's a lot of work doing the kind of stuff we do. And I'm doing my best. I heard comments me rubbing my beard too much during the live streams. I'm trying not to touch my beard the whole time. I literally had someone comment the other day. They said, we're going to make it. They said we're going to make it a drinking game where we're going to take a shot every time Destin touches his beard. And I was like, no, don't do that.
You get some funny comments by the end of that one.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I appreciate all engagement for sure.
Wow.
Let's see. Craig says working from home is great. My challenge is trying to balance being in work mode and not work mode. I'm the same way, Craig. I have a hard time. I have a hard time. Like, I don't have kids. It's just me and my wife. And so it's hard to separate like Texas Garden Guy stuff from Destin stuff, especially if she's helping me out. I had a real hard time in the very beginning when, whenever she was helping me out with recording, I had a hard time, like, because I usually video myself because if you video yourself, you know exactly how you like to be, what angles you like, and the lighting and everything. And so when you're doing stuff like that with your wife and she's handling the camera and you do a whole process and then she says, "Oh, I forgot to record," or I did a picture instead of a video. Like it's hard sometimes. So it is working, doing the balance is hard, but my best advice for anybody is make sure you record yourself and don't even worry about that. But if they do mess up, just move on and just redo it. I've had to up pot, like pull plants out of pots and stuff. But I mean, it's honestly, some of the best videos I've ever done. She's the one that's recording it. She's got the magic hand. So like, I'm happy to have her anytime. I mean, getting those angles is hard with a tripod sometimes. I mean, but you kind of move, you kind of work around that with B-roll though. Like B-roll kind of helps, like you can talk from one static position and then be talking about a topic and then add that B-roll in. So it almost takes the movement and the pressure off of you a little bit to be different angles and stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of B-roll just for that reason. But, I shoot everything myself. So I've come up with ways to prop it up. I mean, I've got this mirror thing I'm trying out so I can use the rear camera now, and like trying to do like outdoor reflector lighting things when it's like full sun because it's so hot and so sunny. I mean, I've been testing out everything you can think of. I even got like this a drone, so just because I thought it'd be fun. Totally unnecessary in life, but you know,
You're a tech nerd like me. You like the accessories and all the stuff. Like I was showing Josh before. I just got the new Osmo Action 4, and it's pretty neat. My usual go-to camera is the Pocket 2, which is one of my favorites because especially if you're like by yourself, you could be vlogging. It's got this gyroscope, so you don't lose a lot of. It doesn't, it's not moving around too much. So the camera is going to follow you around, and it's got like a wireless mic that comes with it as well. So it's really nice. So we can definitely nerd out off camera, but yeah, man, it's definitely hard to switch. You know, not only my actual job, but also the you know content creation, which I don't really think of as a job, but it can be a chore sometimes, especially on Labor Day.
well, it
Uh,
takes a lot of time. That's what I'm learning doing this now, trying to post every day. It's taking up a lot of time, and it's good, but you definitely, I mean, it's a challenge. It's just a challenge balancing it with like real life and home life and work life. It's you can go too far one way really quick when you overcommit yourself to things, and then you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do all this.
yeah.
Speaking
No,
speaking of that summit that I just finished was a great example
yes.
of
Talk
me
about that.
sort of overcommitting, but not, but it turned out really good. And that was Audrey's Little Farm. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's out in California. And so she put on this fall vegetable gardening summit and got like 20 presenters all lined up to be part of the summit. It was completely virtual online, and everybody prepared a presentation between like 15 minutes and 45 minutes. And so the idea was is that everything's free for you to watch the presentation, and then you can throw in a digital product and people could buy that as like an upsell. So basically like, hey, you can get in for free and just watch the presentations live, or you can like get them, where you can watch them anytime in the future, and get these digital products. So I actually created my first mini course, which is like 17 videos of starting your first fruit tree, how to plant, maintain, and nurture. So I threw that in the bundle, and it was so much fun. I mean, they had this Facebook group that got up to like, I don't know, 1,500 people. It ended up being like
Wow.
11,000 people that signed up for the whole
God.
summit. So I got tons of people that signed up for my ebook, and tons of people that got my course. And so it was really fun. And the Facebook group was really interactive. Like every day there'd be trivia, and I was posting stuff. But it was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
How was it? How was it virtually? Like, could you see like how many like faces of some people like in the actual thing, or was it just you talking to a screen?
It was all pre-recorded presentation, so it really wasn't
Oh
like
wow.
live, but it was like that day they opened up all the pre-recorded recordings, and then you had 48 hours to watch those videos.
Wow.
So it was an interesting concept. I've never been a part of one before, but it was
Do,
good. I learned a lot.
do they give you stats like how many like so if everybody posts their stuff up, they tell you like how many times your video was watched and everything like that? They give you like any numbers?
They haven't, but I did get like an incredible amount of people that downloaded my ebook during those so many days. So I sort
Oh,
of figured
cool.
that because you're supposed to put like a link in the bottom for people to like go somewhere to do something so that you can get engagement. That was the whole idea. And it was neat. Yeah, I mean, I like that was a lot. There's a lot of
Right.
people but I should ask about that because it'd be neat to see like can they see how many plays there were.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because I've had people reach out to me and ask me to do some of those online virtual stuff, and I know there's a way to do it through here too, where I can do like a pay $10 and everybody join in and we'll do a fig talk, where anybody can tune in and type in questions, and maybe we might do something like that eventually. But I enjoy talking to people in person so much that I don't know how I would. I don't know. It's hard for me to just. I mean, I can do it, but it's hard for me to just sit here and talk to the camera sometimes like that. That's why even on Fridays, because Fridays I do them all solo on the lives, I'm still interacting with the stuff that people are saying. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different than
Yeah.
just like recording yourself for a 15 to 45 minutes. Like that's nuts. But man, more power to you. That's awesome. That's a lot of work, a lot of preparation. What was your class on?
So it was on 3 steps to get started with fruit trees. And basically, those 3 steps were you got to pick the right place to plant, you got to pick the right varieties and the right plant in the right way and the right time. So those are sort of the ways to get started. And I've got like an ebook that's just a simple little ebook that basically goes through each one of those different things that you need to know. Think of it like a beginner, like somebody that's never planted a tree. What do you need to know before you go buy some tree at Home Depot or Lowe's and put it in the ground? So it's sort of an introductory thing.
No, for sure. And that's super important stuff to know because, we get a lot of questions of when, where, what do I plant in the fall? And, there's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of bad information too, or a lack of information. Let's see. Blue Sage, can we have a beard betting pool? Sure, but I'm not betting any money. Craig says, I've actually been employing my 15-year-old daughter with social media. That's been interesting to say the least. I bet, Craig. Yeah, I'm so OCD. It's hard to let go of certain things. I like stuff done a certain way. Um, it's hard for me to let go because I have such a certain way of doing things, and I want everything a certain way. I need to just chill and relax and let people help me out more. That's one thing I probably I have an issue with, is letting people help me with certain things. And it's just I got it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Talking on fruit trees, I think a lot of people, they get into the spring gardening, the rhapsody that is spring gardening, of, planting their fruit trees and planting their vegetable gardens. A lot of people think that planting your fruit trees in the spring is the best time to plant. But most experts will say that planting fruit trees in the fall is actually the best time to do it. I mean, has that been your experience and like what you've learned over the years?
So yeah, yes and no. So it depends on where you live, because if you're planting a tree in a very cold climate in the fall, you might run into an issue where the root zone freezes out depending on how deep your freeze level is. So if you're in a place where it'll freeze like 12, 24 inches down, which, in some of the northern parts of the country, that's the case. If a tree's not fully established in the fall by that time, you can actually like the tree might not make it through that first winter.
Hmm.
So in so what I always say is if you're in the South or if you're in a warmer climate, right, then I would say plant in the fall. But if you're in a colder climate, I would wait for late winter, early spring to plant. And that's why they ship a lot of bare root trees out during the dormancy time, because I see that. So it's safe everywhere in the spring, but the fall gives you a greater advantage if you're in a zone where you don't get really deep freezes.
Is that when you plant, or do you?
I plant all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
But the but I've had the least amount of success planting midsummer,
oh, yeah,
and I've had the least amount, and then second least in late spring because
yeah,
it gets too hot too quick. The roots don't establish enough, and I have so many fruit trees in the ground that it's hard to keep up with them all. If they're not like right around, in terms of watering. So I
yeah.
hate having to water trees by hand. It just takes forever. So I mean, like it's a pet peeve of mine. So I try to do stuff so I don't have to water a tree. And most of my trees, I'll water them once and I'll never water them again.
Yeah, and
Uh, Like because
definitely
that's how
some.
I plant it.
Yeah.
So
Well, and you're right about the location of where you're at. So like I'm in Texas, you're in North Carolina, right? You're
yeah.
no,
Well, technically South Carolina, but right in the Charlotte area.
okay. All my friends are in like North Carolina. Like everybody I talk to, a state can't possibly be that big. I don't know how it fits all you garden people, all the garden people, and it's like the homestead mecca, like homestead YouTube mecca.
Yeah.
All my friends, all my people on YouTube, all the people I follow are in like North Carolina and stuff. So, um, but yeah, no, here in the Houston area, we're not going to get a deep frost into the soil. It's pretty mild. I mean, our winters have been getting colder, but dealing with a freeze can sometimes, most of the time, be less detrimental than like 3 months where it's like in the 90s, 100 degrees, and them trying to develop that root system and become mature. I would say like coming into September, mid September to like December here in Houston area is like the best time to plant. That's, and I'm talking about your apples, your peaches, and the number one plant I've been recommending this year is pomegranates because I'm having such good success with pomegranates. They are super drought tolerant. They grow like weeds, man. They grow fast. Pomegranates grow crazy fast, man. And if we hadn't gone through a hurricane with 100-mile-an-hour winds, I would have gotten at least 4 pomegranates this year. But because imagine like a Christmas tree with those ball ornaments on it. That's what they were doing to my fence. Those pomegranates were just banging up against the fence, and they just got they exploded. They were just toast, man.
Do you ever root pomegranates from cuttings? Like, are you able to do that
I've
very
had
well?
I've had so it's funny you say it, ask me that because before the hurricane came, both of my pomegranates are right up against the fence, and they don't. I've got them in Vigo containers, the round Vigo containers, uh, and so they're about 17 inches above the ground, but they have never died all the way back. So right now, if I go out there, they're about 7 foot tall, and before the hurricane, they're about 7 foot tall. And I didn't want them banging up against my fence and whacking it and destroying my fence. So I was like, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna prune them real heavy. I propagated some pomegranates before, but I never had great success because it was so hot. But I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to waste these cuttings. So I got a bunch of 1 gallon containers and I did long cuttings. I was sticking one end in a bucket and going the bucket height and cutting the length. So I was going like 18 inch to 2 foot cuttings. And I didn't use saran wrap. I didn't use anything crazy. I just used this regular soil I've got and some rooting hormone. And I put them under my shade cloth. And 2 days later, we got like 8 inches of rain, 100-mile-an-hour winds, and I go out there and within a week I've got new growth in my pomegranates. I got about 40 pomegranate trees, 40 to 50 pomegranate trees that I propagated in the middle of summer. And
Wow.
That was July 4th weekend that I did that.
So what would
And
be a good time if I had some cuttings I wanted to send you? What would be a good time of year to send them for propagation for
probably
your?
now, probably now would be a good time.
So
What varieties do you have?
I have this one of a kind special variety called Phase Paintbrush that a buddy of mine gave me. And what's unique about it, and it's hard to tell, is that the edge of the flower is white, which you never see. So it's like it's been dipped in paint, like white paint, like a red flower. So I'm going to send you some cuttings of this very specific variety that you won't be able to buy anymore. Like this is like some guys like got it from somebody else that had it that was like some
Really?
offshoot of something. Beautiful flowers.
Have you gotten
It's more ornamental than it is for eating. So
have you gotten fruit from it though?
I think I got like one fruit from it. I've moved all my pomegranates from when I redid my whole backyard, and the new spot doesn't get quite enough sun, so it flowers, but I haven't gotten fruit yet since I moved them a few years.
How many total do you have, you think?
I've got two in the ground now, like a Russian Salovatsky and this other one, and then I've got I think two or three in pots I need to find a spot for. But my neighbors have one that's the same one, the Salavatsky that they've kept in the ground, and the fruits they haven't done that well. We only get like a
Hmm.
six fruit, and it's like 6 foot tall now on a big 6 foot wide bush thing. And it's
Wow.
got pretty good sun, but they're not really taken care of. They're just sort of let's see what happens.
So everything I've heard about pomegranates, so I've got a Texas pink, which is almost like a pinkish orange fruit, and then I've got a Parfianka, which is another Russian variety, a really good variety. And what I've heard is like from a propagation or a cutting, it can take, a lot of people within the first 3 years will pinch the fruit. They won't even let the plant focus on fruit because the actual trunk isn't heavy enough or thick enough to actually get nutrients to the fruit and support the weight of the fruit. And so
Mm.
a lot of people will actually pinch the fruit off the first couple of years. I am more along the Joel Salatin line where I just like, I'm gonna let the pomegranate be the pomegranate. I'm gonna let the fig be the fig. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna let it do its thing. Hey, I might get a pomegranate out of this. If it takes me an extra year, well, that's fine. I'm still gonna keep it. But I have also heard that having multiples will increase pollination, especially if they're all blooming around the same time. So it seems like adding more will be. My dad has about 15. He's got about 15 in the
Wow.
ground. Most of them are from cuttings,
Mm.
and uh, the problem he has is that he has about 100 acres, and there's like cow pastures and everything around him, and there's no wind. There's nothing to stop the wind. So the wind is just brutal. And when it's cold and it's windy, nothing is stopping that. So they die back to the ground every single year. But they come back. They come back. They'll die back and they'll come back strong. Mine don't die back at all. They stay like they'll defoliate, but they won't die back at all, which is kind of crazy.
But does it get fruit off of them when they come back from the ground like that? Because I would think it wouldn't fruit that way.
So that's what I was thinking too. What is happening is the ones he's had the longest, most of them were like most of them are within like the first 2 or 3 years old. He's got some wonderfuls that are about 4 years old. Those are his first ones he got, and they actually have some fruit on them that he might
Huh.
get. Usually they ripen around this time of year, like September. They start, but people that grow pomegranates, you need to know the pomegranates take forever to ripen. They take a long time to ripen. And it's not something you can pull off the plant and let it ripen in the window. It has got to ripen on the tree. And so it's a little bit of a, you gotta be patient with this fruit. I was a little too patient with my guava. I picked up some guavas, and I don't usually buy fruit trees from like Lowe's or Home Depot, but I was there picking something. I think it was something for the irrigation system, and I usually order it online, but that day I needed something that then and there. And so I went and I saw, ooh, they got like two different varieties of guavas. I've never grown a guava before. And so I brought them home. Usually like always when you buy them from like big box stores, they're root bound, they're dry, they're planted mostly peat. So I was like, oh, let's mix up some perlite and get a nice mix going, put them in 15-gallon pots. And like within a month, I had a fruit. And guava fruits, I've never even ate one before. And this variety was called like the Mexican cream guava. And I was real excited to try it. I'll send you a picture. And the fruit got big. And you can Google as much as you want on when to pick a fruit. You never really know. And I've had so many times, especially with watermelons, where you think that fruit is ripe and then you go pick it and you cut it open and it's all white. And I didn't want that to happen with this guava. And I let it go like 2 days too long. It was hard. It was hard. I was like, it's gonna soften up. And then one day it did soften up, but it softened up where I squeezed it and it and I was like, no. I was like, no. If I'd have picked it like 2 days earlier, I'd have had this guava. And so
Oh,
maybe
that's
next
sad.
maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Uh, Guavas, I love. We have a lot of pineapple guavas out here. That's from Feijoa, I think
Yeah.
is how you pronounce that. But
Yeah.
those are really popular, and like even along the coastline in South Carolina, I see them a lot when I travel there. And I have just gotten thousands of fruit off of them, and they are evergreen. So it's really beautiful landscaping plant as well. And so I have a hedge of them in my front, like right in front of my front porch. And then I've got these two big, like now they're like 8 foot bushes in the backyard, and they produce so many. It's probably my favorite like bush fruit ever.
I had I had one for like a couple of years in a container, like a big mineral tub. I got it from Jorge, and it was beautiful. It would always bloom early in the spring, and those blooms, you go taste the petal, and it's like so delicious. It's like, oh my god, it's like sugary marshmallow flavor. It's insane. But I never got any fruit. And they were telling me it's like, well, you need more than one plant. You need more than one plant to get really good pollination. So I added two more. Didn't get any. They were younger plants. And so I ended up giving it to my dad, and he got another one. So he's got He's got about a 15-acre like orchard. He's got a couple hundred pecan trees that he's planted, a bunch of pears, peaches, anything you can grow. My dad likes to grow. He put some citrus in the ground and it died back, and he's letting he's letting the host go ahead and grow back. He wants it to grow back thick, so maybe he can graft something on eventually. So he's doing a lot out there, but he had some of those. Or he's got 4 of those pineapple guavas now. They haven't fruited yet, but they will. I'm sure they will.
Well, you have to have different varieties too. So it's not just 2 plants. They have to be 2 genetically different varieties. And so if you buy them from the same place and they're all grafted from the same one, you won't get fruit. They have to be different. Like
Really?
genetically
They
for
can't
them
be
to grow.
clones. They can't be propagations.
Nope, doesn't work.
So I'm pretty sure they're not, because I got one from Jorge. I got 2 of them from Jorge, and I got 2 of them from my buddy Trey over at
Okay.
Leg Creek Farm. So I'm pretty sure they're not the same. They are blooming, but they're getting established too, and they take a little bit. But they grow them in Scotland. They grow them in Scotland, and they grow them as far north as Scotland, and people do prune them up to like trees. Like they'll prune them like trees. It's pretty cool looking plant.
Pretty neat.
It's a really cool shrub, and people were asking us about shrubs that they had lost in the freeze, and that was one of our number one recommendations for replacement shrubs in your flower bed was a pineapple guava. They're so cool, and they are evergreen. They maybe, do yours ever lose their leaves? Mine never really lost his leaves ever.
No, never. I mean, I think I covered it when it got down to the low teens here one time because I thought, oh, this might be tricky, but they didn't even lose anything. And you can cut them hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I pruned I pruned them down to like 3 feet tall for my front hedges, and you can just prune them every year really hard, like any other landscape bush, and they'll just bounce back.
Oh wow,
So,
that's awesome. Let's see. Andy McAnderson, I have a pomegranate in a pot. How would you overwinter? And Conroe, if they're just north of Houston. So if the pomegranate in a pot, you're probably gonna be fine. Pomegranates have to lose their leaves. They have to lose their leaves, defoliate, and they come back with that new growth every year, and that's where the blooms come from. So they have to have some kind of freeze to trigger that new flower. Am I wrong, Josh?
no, you're correct. And in fact, you need to have so many chill hours on a pomegranate. Like usually I think it's 150 to like 250 chill hours. So that means how many hours below 45 degrees for them to produce fruit. So if you were to, oh, it's going to get down to 50, I'm going to take it in and leave it inside and then bring it back out at, it gets above 50, you wouldn't ever get fruit on it because it needs that chill hour to be able to set fruit.
And I think a lot of people think chill hours or like freeze, like hours like at freezing, below freezing. But you're right, it's at like 45, 42, whatever. Just in that chill time. It's not freeze time, it's chill hours. And that's why it's really important to support local nurseries, because typically smaller, like family-owned nurseries in your area are going to sell the varieties of fruit that actually do well in your area. Also, reach out to your local ag extension, because typically they'll have a list of what varieties of like apples or peaches or pears that do well in your area and have the minimum chill hours for your area. Because if you go get a Macintosh apple, it's not going to do very well here in Texas. You're never going to get an apple. You're never going to get an apple, So it's definitely worth looking into for sure. All right, we got a question here. Soledad Mateo Summer. I like Soledad. That's a cool name. I'm in Lander, Texas, originally from Puerto Rico, and I just started figs, and I want to plant passion fruits, but worry about Texas weather and overwatering. Do you have passion fruit or passion vine up there?
We do, but they're maypops, which is like a different species of passion flower and I think it doesn't produce the purple; it produces the green fruit. So purple ones, I think, are only tropical, and it's a little bit different inside. That's where you get that orangey flesh, where the green ones have the white flesh on the seeds.
Right, and I've heard people talk about maypops before, and I have no familiarity with them. But it grows more like a bush, right? That grows more like a bush.
No, it's a vine, and here's the thing: it's invasive. I mean,
Oh, really?
I gave my buddy a present of I grew this passion flower for. He's like, oh man, this is great. He planted it in his front bed, it grew 20 feet in the first year up his like a lattice onto his porch, across the top of his porch, and he was getting all this fruit. So this is the greatest thing. Thanks, Josh. And the next year he's like mowing and it's coming out 20 feet, 30 feet from his bed in his
Oh my
yard.
god.
And like his whole bed got taken over. Now I feel really guilty, like I did him a disservice.
And that's something I would probably say with the passion vine. I got two varieties. One person gave to me, and I'm growing them in pots. It's not likely that they're going to pop. So, like a lot of people say, the passion vine can be invasive, uh, and they can be if you're putting them in the ground. They typically grow runners, and they pop up. Like I've heard that they'll pop up like 10 feet away. Start coming out of the ground. If you keep them in a pot, and I've actually gotten mine in a pot, sitting on top of a paver, so that they don't grow into the ground from the pot, because I've heard that'll happen too. So keeping them in a pot, the seeds are not likely to spread like that, but the runners from the roots will definitely grow like crazy. So definitely, yeah, don't put it in the ground. I wouldn't recommend. I don't recommend people putting them in the ground at all. I think Des and Austin has the same problem with hers. So I thought the Maypop was like a totally different uh, kind of plant, but it's a vine as well, huh?
Oh yeah, and very similar looking flowers to the other type. I mean, they are almost identical. I know
Oh,
that
wow.
both types you can eat the leaves, like spinach, and I think some people say they're good for like sleep or something, or some sort of medical usage. I forget, but supposedly, I mean, there's a lot of uses for them. So if you're okay with them spreading and you just pull up the ones you don't need, sure, go for it. Put them in the ground, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah. You can keep, you'd be surprised how long you can keep stuff in pots, everybody. Like, especially if you're practicing like gradual up potting. Like, whenever I'm growing something in a container, I'm not going from like a 1 gallon pot to like a 55 gallon container. I'm going from like a 1 gallon to a 3 gallon, a 3 gallon to like a 5 gallon, a 5 gallon to a 15, and so on and so on. And, I kind of have talked about this every once in a while where, people will plant fruit trees, like you'll get a lemon tree or an orange tree, and you get the little container at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's a 1 gallon pot, and you put it in a 50 gallon pot. And the first year, you're like, why am I not getting any fruit? Why am I not getting any fruit? I was like, well, you just gave this tree free reign to just spend all of its time and energy establishing roots. All it's going to do in the container is spend the whole year, might get a fruit or two, but it's mostly going to focus on growing roots and exploring as far as it can go. Now that's different in the ground. I mean, the ground is different. Pots are different. You know what I mean? But I always recommend, even like with fruit trees, like keeping them and gradually up potting them and not just going straight into a bigger pot. But I mean, you do all yours in containers, right?
Yeah, I do all my citrus in containers, and I've got obviously just regular fruit trees, deciduous in the ground. But I've probably got 25 citrus trees right now in containers, tropical, and so I'll do the same thing. I up pot slowly, gradually, because I've actually killed. I think I've killed a few by taking them and putting them into too big of a pot, because then they sort of drown, because the roots can't absorb all the moisture either. So you can create a lot more root rot if you don't gradually increase the pot size. So I'm a big citrus fan. I have one Frankenstein citrus tree that has 11 different citrus varieties grafted onto one trifoliate orange that I air layered off of a rootstock that popped out of my first citrus tree. So it's like third
What?
generation mutant tree.
Have you done a video on this?
Yeah, it was an old video, like when I first got started. I need to do a new one, but it's crazy. Like,
That is really
it's got,
cool.
yeah, it's pretty neat.
And I may need to do that with Phil when he's down, because Phil's coming down for Figtoberfest, which is October 5th, and the Fig Hunter is coming too. And we may need to do something where, because I've never done a fig graft, I've never done any kind of graft, but I've heard that fig grafting is pretty easy, and I think it'd be really cool to try to do a fig tree that's a bunch of different varieties of figs. And my buddies over at Smart Pots sent me a bunch of pots, and that would be a good option, because if you do something like that, I would need to protect it in the greenhouse over winter so those grafts don't all die back. So it might be a good option for I got a couple 15-gallon smart pots. Those things are awesome. I did sweet. It's probably a little bit late to do sweet potatoes, but I put it in my greenhouse with one of those fabric smart pots.
You got
So
smart pots on here right now. They just
I
come.
know it.
Awesome.
That's why it reminded me. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I've got those. They're pretty neat too. They were at that. I did that nursery and landscape expo, and they actually posted. They told me about it, but they posted a picture, a couple pictures of it today. They're doing something with either Harvard or Boston College or MIT or something, and it's this like a art display, and what it is like a giant like tower, and it's filled with rows and rows and rows of hanging smart pots, and it's got like a ton of pollinators in it, and it's really cool looking. I think I shared the picture to my Instagram stories. It's really,
Hmm,
and that art installation is going to be moving around to different cities too, which is kind of cool. But
that's
really
neat.
really neat. It's like a giant pollinator tower, which is pretty cool. It's like 30 foot tall. It's huge.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Pollinated flower.
So here the Pollinator Tower is opening tomorrow on Harvard's campus in Boston.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
if you're in
need to
the
look that up.
that's
That's
pretty
pretty
neat.
neat.
I saw the pictures of it. It looks awesome. And like I said, they said they can take it down and they're going to move it around like to other locations, which is awesome. So really
That's
cool. I'll
cool.
put that 41 feet tall and 51 feet wide. Yeah, it's
Oh my
pretty cool.
goodness.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah. Over 800 smart pots holding a staggering 11,000 gallons of soil. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures now. This is wild looking.
It is.
That's an
Here,
installation.
yes. Let me see if I can. Is it called the Pollinator Tower? Oh, my.
Yeah, yeah, right here. It's yeah. I think
I'll share it. I'll share it.
yeah, the unveiling of the pollinator tower in Cambridge.
It's such a cool
Oh,
idea.
that is so neat. Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's really awesome. So, really cool people. They're smart pots. Let's see. Oh, that's a good question because actually, so are there many brands of smart pots? What brand? So I actually had this question because when I talked to them, I asked them. They asked me if I had done like any fabric pots before, and I have done. Like someone gifted me like for Christmas one year. They know I garden, so they got me a bunch of those cheap like fabric ones on Amazon. And if you go on Amazon and you type in smart pots, uh, it's a bunch of Chinese knockoffs, a lot of intellectual property theft. And so if you actually want the made in USA smart pots, go to smart pots, like actually go to their website and get them. And they usually have a lot of really good deals too. So especially around the holidays, a lot of these garden companies love to do stuff around holidays, and they typically like to move some product, and it's the perfect time to get started for the fall garden. So
Yeah,
get
looks like
on
they're
that.
running a Labor Day sale right now for like 30% off entire site. I actually have a bunch of smart pots. When I did my container gardening, I had half of them in plastic hard pots and half of them in smart pots. And it was interesting to see the difference. I mean, in terms of like, drainage and water retention and how cool they would get. It was
Yeah.
definitely interesting.
And don't think this is like a giant advertisement for smart pots. I was curious about smart pots because I had a bad experience with one of the knockoffs until I saw one of their Instagram posts, and someone had a like a Hinoki cypress bonsai in one, and it had been in that pot for like 20 years, and it was still holding up. And I was like, that is cool. Okay, I was like, oh, if it can hold up a Hinoki cypress for 20 years, okay, it's probably gonna hold up. So pretty cool.
Hmm.
But I've really been focusing on. I really want to do a lot more made in the USA, preferably made in Texas, but made in the USA. I'll do that too. Products on the channel, trying to get more manufacturing back in the United States, baby. Well, Josh, I've had you for about an hour and a half, man. I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. Real quick,
Okay.
let everybody know where they can find you, what you got coming up, and
Yeah.
let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on most socials at the Plant Techie. I also go by Uncle Josh Gardens in Facebook and YouTube. What I've got coming up, something exciting in a couple days. I'm going to be starting a 20-day challenge where every day I'm going to be posting a short form and a long form about the same topic on fruit trees, sort of like foundational fruit tree knowledge. I think not. I'm going to promo tomorrow and then day after that. And so the idea is like I just want to get everybody like some base foundational stuff, and then with that, I've also got my course, which I'm going to be launching outside of that summit, which is 17 videos on how to plant, maintain, and nurture your fruit trees. So it really gives you through like, okay, how do you dig the hole? What do you put in it? How often you got to water, fertilizer, sort of, and it's like all like hands-on stuff. It's like 3 hours of content. So that course is going to go live like standalone this week with the 20-day challenge. And then the other thing I've got going on, which we haven't really talked about, is I'm actually in the midst of becoming a master gardener. So I'm going through the
Oh,
master
nice.
gardener program. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, here in South Carolina. So that's really exciting. I've been like sharing bits of information that I learned from it, but it's been fun. There's people that have been gardening for like their whole lives that just can school me in like a heartbeat. They're like, oh, well, don't do this, do that. And I'm like, I didn't even know about that. So I got a lot to learn. Pretty excited about it.
I had a bad impression of master gardeners when I first started all this out because it's like I guess it's like any topic or any kind of group. There's a vocal minority that's very vocal, and especially on social media, you're doing this wrong. I'm a master gardener. You're like, and it's like when people tell me I'm doing something wrong, it makes me want to do it the way I was doing it 10 times more. To prove them wrong. So like I had some negative interactions with master gardeners until I got invited to go do a talk at my local one, and come to find out, most of the people in the master gardener program are typically it's an older demographic, and it's people that are very passionate about gardening, and I met a lot of cool people from there, and I go to the meetings every once in a while. I'm not a master gardener. They only do classes, and I will shout out to Kimberly because she is doing Figtoberfest with us, the Missouri County Ag Extension. They're helping us out with Figtoberfest. Get those classes going on the weekends because I can't take off on Thursdays, so I can become a master gardener and I can tell everybody, shut up, I'm a master gardener. Because I would love to become a master gardener just to be like, yeah, what are you going to say about this? But they do a lot of cool master gardeners programs. Check out your local county master gardener program. They do a lot of sales. They do a lot of like spring garden planting sales, and then spring tree sales as well. And they typically only sell the varieties that they do a lot of native stuff, and they do, like I said earlier, varieties that do really well in your area. So, but yeah, I'm Texas Garden Guy. I will be Texas Garden Guy everywhere. I'll be in Alabama in 2 weeks. I'm driving to the Great Fall Garden Festival to hang out with all the Alabama folks. Just Dig It Farms, Cog Hill Farms. So I'm excited about that. We'll have the garden party on Wednesday this week. As I said earlier, we're going to have Heavenly Hills Homestead. He's going to be on Ryan Cook. He does giant pumpkins and all kinds of crazy West Virginia stuff. So he's going to be fun. Him and Des will be on with me and Phil on Wednesday. And Josh, we need to get you back on. I need to get you back on the schedule for the garden party. You come on about once a month or so. I need to get you back on, man. You and Enoch. But I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your Labor Day, man. And we will get you back on again sometime.
Sounds good. Good to see you. Great comments and enjoyed being on it.
Yep. Make sure you follow the Plant Techie and Uncle Josh on Uncle Josh Gardens on Facebook. And so I will see you all on Wednesday, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Texas Garden Guy Show. Have a good evening, everybody.